Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Insider. In fact, this season of The Insider, because right now we're in the middle of episode 1 of season 4. Now, my guest today has over 1 million subscribers on YouTube, 830,000 followers on Instagram. He won IBM after just doing magic for 3 years. Went on to win FISM, then America's Got Talent, then America's Got Talent, the Champions. He has incredible hair. It's the one, the only, Shin Lim. Shin, how are you this afternoon?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I am delightful, thank you. But it's a short podcast. We haven't got time for pleasantries. What's your
It's
origin
fine.
story? You've got 23 seconds.
I was shown the slip force. I'm sure you know what that is, by my older brother. And he said, "Oh, yeah, you can actually learn that online." And at the time, I thought magic was this thing where you had to have some sort of special powers. I didn't know that anyone could learn it. And so that just really surprised me and also intrigued me. And that's what got me obsessed. And that was the very first trick was the slip force.
That's a good start. That's a good start.
Yeah.
So, 1 million subscribers on YouTube. I have one question. Do you read the
Yeah.
comments?
Yeah, of course I read the comments. Yeah. I mean, it depends. I mean, recently, yes, I've been able to read the comments a lot more because I've obviously have a lot more free time.
Sure.
But yeah, every now and then. I mean, social media just in general has just always been this thing that I knew I kind of had to do. But it's obviously not something that I'm obviously pursuing like full time. It's not. It's not like my main career.
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess winning FISM was really what brought you into the attention of most magicians, including our very own Joshua J, who was one of the judges.
Mm.
Um, why did you enter it, and how did you prepare?
So I first knew about FISM when I saw Sean Farquhar win FISM. I saw his ambitious card routine, I believe. Even though it wasn't really didn't it wasn't the typical ambitious card, but it was all down to music. Shape of My Heart, that's what it was
Oh,
called.
right, yeah.
And it was really beautiful, and it was just a card trick. Because at the time, I think I had known like Lance Burton won FISM, when I first started Magic, when I went to his little teen seminars. And so I kind of knew about it, but I didn't know that close-up guys could also compete in it and win.
Right.
And then when I saw Sean Farquhar win with the card trick, it was very inspiring for me. That's when I was like, okay, I knew that there was a category where you could do just cards, and at the same time, there's a possibility of actually doing well. So that was when I made that decision.
And how did you prepare? What was the process from going, right, I'm going to enter FISM to
Yeah.
standing on the stage?
So I think Sean won in 2009 in Beijing, I believe. I think that was when he won. So it was around then that I started. I already had an act that I competed in IBM and stuff like that. I think I got like second place or top six or something like that. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll just keep working on this act. And so it was that same act that I competed at IBM, SAMs, and just kept working at it, kept tweaking it here and there. It's called the Dream Act, the
Sure.
one where the smoke comes out of my mouth. And it wasn't like that at the time. It's evolved throughout time, and then eventually became the act that everyone's seen today. But yeah, I mean, the process was just a lot of tweaking and a lot of showing my friends, my family. Um, obviously that act isn't an act that you do at a restaurant table hopping,
Hmm.
right? So it's not something that you can just kind of do at shows and sorry, at like restaurant magic to kind of like get practice on it. It was hard to find a venue to be able to practice that act. But I think I got lucky in some senses because I actually competed in 2012 FISM Blackpool, and I didn't place at all, but it was from that time that Mike Miller, he saw me and he kind of brought me to China to do like a China tour, and there was about 30 cities. I think it was 60 shows or something like that. And it was the first time ever that I've got the opportunity to actually just perform that act again and again and again. Like, because usually before I would always just perform for my friends at
Sure.
competitions, stuff like that. It
So
would
you
never
had the
be
flight
actual.
time that a normal close-up magician would have.
Right, right. And so it was a really good experience, and I think that was one of turning points for me. It really took it to the next level, I think, because it really helped me be able to figure out everything about stage presence, everything about how to connect to the audience through the camera. I learned a lot about a lot, so that was really good.
Being original is clearly really important to you. Why do you think that's important?
I've always just wanted to do things differently. It was funny every time I always tell people I never create out of nothing. I always create it from a classic or from things that have always been done beforehand. And every time I buy a DVD or buy a trick, I don't know why, ever since I just started Magic, for whatever reason, I would never listen to the instructional tutorial. So I would always watch it, see how the method is done, but I would refuse to replicate it. I would always try to figure out a different way of doing it. And you can kind of see it actually on my social media. So like I tend to post tricks that other people create on my Instagram and stuff like that. But you'll always notice that there's always some sort of a twist to it, or I always change it or tweak it. And that's just how I learn Magic. I learn by watching how it's done, and I will actually never ever do it exactly how they teach it. I would always
Do you
try to
mean
make it differently.
in terms of method or performance?
Usually it's performance. Method's usually the same. Yeah,
Right.
method's pretty close. Yeah, I would always just change the performance and handling. Yeah.
Sure. Do you think creativity can be studied, can be learned? And if so, how does somebody listening to this that wants to be more creative start that
Mhm.
journey?
I definitely think that creativity is something that you can train your mind to think in a different way. However, there is a fine line of training your mind to be creative via like doing what I did, which is tweaking a trick. Or I know a lot of people do. I know like Eric Jones and stuff. They what they do is they would read the effect of like in a book, let's say, and then they wouldn't look at the method and they would try to guess the method, and then they end up coming with a different way of accomplishing that same effect. So I know a lot of magicians do that. I don't do that at all. I go the opposite way. I see the method first and I try to change the effect. But so there's a fine line between doing that type of practice, because that is a brain muscle that you kind of practice, and then also realizing that creativity sometimes you have to let it come naturally to you. You can't always force it, and the best ideas usually just come out of nowhere. And so it's you got to kind of figure out how to juggle the two, because I've noticed the times when I come up with the worst ideas is when I'm like, okay, guys, let's all sit together and then let's all just try to create a new trick. Let's say you get a bunch of your friends to sit down on like a little meeting table, for example, and we have a little drawing board, and we're like, okay, so let's just plan this, and we're gonna
Let's
do
be
this.
creative.
Yeah, because it's not, and okay, so from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, we're gonna try to create like it just doesn't work like that. Yeah, at least from my experience.
In part of the research for this, I was watching some interviews with you because I don't like asking the same questions that you always get asked.
Hmm.
But you said that you really care about magic. Why do you care so much?
Because I love magic. I love everything about magic, and it's one of for me, because I've studied piano. I've also studied film. I do a lot of different other types of artsy things, and magic is that only type of art form when it comes to theater. It's a rare art form where you get to communicate with the audience. You break the fourth wall, but at the same time, there are moments where you can also make it look like a play, look like a ballet dance, and have these musical moments, or like have a David Copperfield moment where it's all to music and it's very grand. But then you can immediately get out of that and go into a moment where you're making the audience laugh, you're communicating directly with them, you're bringing them up on stage, and it's such a random type of performance. There's just so many things to it. You're acting, you're doing sleight of hand, you're juggling, right? You're juggling with your hands, and you have to have patter, you have to have an atmosphere, you have everything. And so it's really difficult. It's difficult to be good at magic. I think anyone can be a magician, right? You can buy an invisible deck and then just do the trick.
Sure.
But in order to do it well and to be good, it's actually really difficult, because there's so many parts to magic. there's music, there's acting, there's pattern and stage presence, everything. Also props and knowing how to design your own props. And then at the end of the day, you have your own style. Each magician, there's shows like The Illusionist.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen The Illusionist and
Sure.
stuff like that. And a lot of the time, and don't get me wrong, I've been a part of The Illusionist too. They're a great company. But sometimes it kind of, because they have so many different types of illusionist shows, and some of them do fall flat. And the only reason why is because the director feels like they know the magician, right? They're treating the magicians almost like dancers or jugglers, right? And they're like, okay, you're gonna all do this type of style. You're all gonna wear these clothes or whatever. And so the problem with that is that because magicians are so unique, each magician is unique to their own style. Because dancing, juggling, acrobats, it's different. They can accommodate, like Cirque du Soleil, they can accommodate to whatever style the director wants to. They can do it, But with magicians, it's totally different. Or for example, if I were to try to film a magician's act, I actually wouldn't know exactly which angle to get unless I actually studied his act. Whereas like a ballerina, for example, if she was filming another ballerina's act and she was doing she'd know, because the ballerina would be like, oh, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And they're like, oh, okay, I immediately know. Whereas a magician, there's so many nuances. Oh, my top it's here. It's to my left instead of the right. Or actually, I'm sleeving instead of doing this. There's so many nuances that magicians tend to just make, because we all just make this ourselves and we tweak it to our personality. And I think that's what makes it so unique, and that's why I love it so much. It's because it's just so different. Yeah, very long answer. Sorry.
That's a fantastic answer. Has your opinion on the magic community changed in recent years since you became more kind of public facing?
No, it's actually been the same. It actually hasn't changed. I think I've always been. I feel like I love the community, and the community is obviously, there's a lot of drama that kind of goes on everywhere, but it's so with any art form. I think magicians though do tend to focus a lot on the drama, but that that all aside, I think it's still the same. I hope there's something that kind of changes magic, but for the better. I'm still waiting on that. I don't know what it is, but I just want to take it to the next level. I want it to be kind of even more so widely accepted by the world. So I'm not too sure what it is. I've been recently, especially, I've been thinking about this. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a weird thought in my head.
When you're out with friends, what kind of tricks do you do? Because obviously you can't sit there and put on a bit of music and get some smoke devices and do an eyebrow thing. So when a friend, you're out to dinner and a friend says, "Oh, could you show me something?" What do you do?
Yeah, I usually just do so. I have like, obviously I have a group of friends that are all magicians, and recently majority of them are all magicians. So I'm always just either jamming on ideas and being like, okay, how does this look? Did I flash? Blah, blah, blah. But before, when I was like in high school and stuff like that, I would just do regular, just sleight of hand card tricks. I had a phase where I would, do mnemonica and stuff like that, but I have a really bad memory, so I've forgotten mnemonica already. Like it's just terrible. It sucks. Like I wish I could do mnemonica, to be honest, but I just keep forgetting the stack all the time. So, like I memorize it, and then if I don't re-memorize it within the next week, I forget it. Yeah. I have a very bad memory, and that's the only downside.
Music plays a really important part in your magic. Why do you think it's important? And how do you select the music that you use?
Yeah, no, music's really important for me. I mean, I guess obviously because I come from a music background. I studied classical piano. I was majoring in piano performance as well. And so I think, when I first started magic, it was kind of the thing. It was a funny reason. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have music in my act because I don't want to waste the amount of practice and knowledge of music that I, since I started
Oh,
at 10
that's
years old,
interesting.
all the way to 18, I don't want to waste that opportunity.
Sure,
And my
sure.
parents spent so much money on it. I just want to make use of it. So that was actually the initial idea. But then I think, as time went on, I realized music was such an important piece of everything. It really affected the whole act overall. I really believe it's 50% of my acts, because without the music, it's not very good. I use the music for misdirection. I use the music for obviously atmosphere. I use the music for to play with people's emotions throughout the act, and I also use it for justification. Let's say I need to specifically move my hand this way,
Hmm.
or I need to do this gesture in order to have to take people's attention away so that I can do a pinky count here. So it's stuff like that usually it would take talking misdirection for it to be like, hey, look over here. So instead, I use music for that. And also, like, it helps covers loud noises. Let's say I have a gimmick that makes a loud noise. Music is really great to just blast
Sure.
through that. Hence why you notice I usually use really loud music, and so that's actually one of the reasons. But yeah, and also timing to it, synchronizing with it is also very cool. It's fun to do. It's not easy. It's quite difficult, but it's totally worth it. And I kind of view, so when I'm doing close up magic, I'm almost seeing myself like a stage magician. I guess I get a lot of influence from stage magicians in that sense, where when you see stage magic, it's usually done all to music.
Hmm.
So I was kind of just, I guess, mixing uh, those two genres together.
So, and how do you select? How do you research and
Oh
select the
yeah,
pieces?
so I have like a whole list of music that I like, and I just usually save it's on my phone. And then so what I do is whenever I have a new idea for a trick, I
Hmm.
have these range of music, and I know like kind of around like what type of atmosphere and what type of rhythm it has, and so then I kind of like combine the two together, see if it works. If it doesn't, I throw it back to the list and I grab another song. And so that's usually how it works. But the in order for the song to be in that little list, it's very tough because I'm very picky with what songs I like, and it tends to the songs as well need to have a certain type of flow. They tend to need to crescendo upwards
Hmm.
throughout, like all throughout, and because I feel like magic in general kind of needs to have that, or at least my magic needs to have this type of um, gradual increase in terms of either magicalness or intensity. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Um, During your career in magic, is there something that you wish that you done differently or had not done at all?
Yeah. Probably not release so much tricks when I was younger. I wish I had held that off, but I got so into like releasing products that I don't know. I really enjoyed like putting my name out there, but
Hmm.
at the same time, I wasn't mature enough. So I think that's the one thing I wish I could change, especially when I was younger. Um, but other than that, not too much. No, not too much else. Like, I think everything else, I'm pretty happy with what I did. Yeah.
Fair play to you. Fair play to you. You use a mixture of kind of crazy hard move monkey sleights
Mm-hmm.
and pretty heavy gimmicks. Now, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of magicians are either in the sleight camp or the gimmick camp.
Right.
Why did you decide to embrace both of those?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because it's such an important. I think that is kind of that, because I think it was like 10 years ago or something, especially when Dan and Dave came out.
Hmm.
So many people got into just pure sleight of hand, and I'm one of them. I used to be a purist. I used to hate gimmicks, anything to do with not a regular deck, even just using a duplicate card. I was like, nah, it's got to be pure, just 52 playing cards. And I started using gimmicks when my carpal tunnel actually came in. I have carpal tunnel on both of my hands, and then and so it started being very difficult for me to practice obviously sleight of hand, because you have to
Sure.
practice like 8 to 10 hours a day on a certain sleight. It's especially if you want to get it down really well. And so I guess it was a blessing in disguise, kind of, because I was like, oh man, I can't, some of these stuff I can't really do anymore. And I wanted to still obviously do magic. I still wanted to have more in my repertoire. At that time, all I knew was just Ambitious Card, Twisting the Aces, French Kiss. I just knew like a couple of sleight of hand tricks, and then knowing that I needed to, if I wanted this to be a career, I needed to have just a longer period of just magic in general. So I started, researching about gimmicks and learning about flat cards and elastic thread and invisible thread and all these different things and magnets. And I started realizing, I said, wow, this is pretty cool stuff. This is in a way, this is almost like sleight of hand, but it's like sleight of gimmicks. It's like even trying to figure out how to build a gimmick in itself is an art form.
Sure.
And I think I found that fascinating. So it was a very interesting transition for me, becoming a purist, which I used to be, and then accepting gimmicks, not because I did it. It was by accident. It was because of my carpal tunnel and knowing that I couldn't continue just doing hardcore sleight of hand all the time. However, I do have a thing. I think, and there's also, there's a lot of purists for sleight of hand, but then there's also a lot of people that only do just gimmick magic. And it's very obvious that that's all they do is just gimmick magic. They hold the thing in place, and then they get ready for the change, and then they let go, and then it changes magically. And so I think if both sides actually, just kind of mix a little bit, it becomes quite amazing. It really does. It really changes the game. So I do recommend, if you're a heavy gimmick guy or if you're a heavy purist, to just try implementing both. If you're a gimmick guy, try learning sleight of hand. If you're a sleight of hand guy, try making some gimmicks. You might actually find joy in doing it, and at the same time, it really adds flavor to your magic.
Yeah. Who are some magicians that you rate that people might not be too familiar with? And then we can put some Instagram shout outs in the show notes.
Sure. Yeah. Well, Jan Frisch, I remember when I saw him. I was at 2012 Blackpool. That, to me, I thought that was for the first time ever, because I had known a lot of magic at the time. Obviously, I thought I witnessed like real magic when I saw his act. When he was making the cups and the balls vanish, I was like, what is going on? Because I don't know if I want to say it here. I won't say it. But I didn't know that the technique of using a tape.
Any magicians are going to listen to this. Is fine. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I didn't know the technique. I didn't know the idea. I wasn't very familiar with lapping.
Sure.
And so for me, I was like, okay, the cards are the cups and balls are actually vanishing into thin air. Like, it was crazy. Right. To me, it was crazy. And mixed with his personality and character, it was just it took it to the next level. So I remember his FISM act was one of the most impactful, visually. I'll probably remember for the rest of my life. That moment in Blackpool. A couple of other magicians that for me are very influential. Jean-Pierre Ballerina. I remember I saw his act on YouTube, and he was doing close-up magic, but all silent, not speaking at all, making some amazing things appear and disappear. And he was also very influential to look at. Tommy Wonder, I really like watching his stuff too. And then some of the newer guys, David Souza, he's a stage manipulator. I really, his magic's really great, but it was more of his character and persona, and he was very slow. And I think that was what I really liked that, because at the time, we see a lot of especially Jeff McBride, and he's amazing. He's very fast, you're producing cards really, really fast. But when I saw David Souza, that was like the first time I saw a stage manipulator that was going very slowly, elegantly. And I said, wow, I want to be like that. And so I got a lot of, actually, in terms of movement, in terms of style, even color, like what I wear was actually influenced from David Souza.
Sweet. Talking of other magicians, I asked Tom Elderfield if he had any good ideas for questions for you. He said to ask you who was your favourite British magician at your wedding.
Just Tom Elderfield, of course. Pretty sure I think he was the only British magician.
We don't need to spoil it for everyone, Shin. But talking of young magicians like Tom, you're now like responsible, man. You're inspiring future generations of magicians to take up the art. For those that might be listening to this podcast, who got into magic because of you, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, the advice I would keep doing magic first of all, because it's if you guys stop, that's the end of it. You guys have to keep doing it. You have to keep spreading it. You have to keep showing people magic. You have to keep thinking of new ideas. There's so many things to talk about. I mean, just talking about the whole thing about purist sleight of hand and pure gimmick. If you are a purist out there, I highly recommend try learning gimmicks. And if you only do gimmicks, try learning sleight of hand. You got to mix the two together, because you're almost kind of handicapping yourself. When you're only choosing to just do pure sleight of hand, it's almost like, I don't know, driving a car without a turbo booster or something like that. You have to experiment, and don't be afraid to fail. That's also another big advice I always tend to tell people, because you gotta always just take risks and just try.
Now, on to our very exciting online live event, Experts at the Card Table, happening on October the 25th. It features Jason England, Alan Ackerman, Josh and Andy, and you. What can people expect to learn from you at the event, Shin? And are we going to need cutting boards and X-Acto knives and rubber cement and elastic thread?
No, although I would love to teach that, but I decided to just go with some sleight of hand, and it's very focused on the longitudinal palm. So I'm focusing on tricks that require knowledge on that, and I teach a control and a color change, the longitudinal palm, something that people haven't seen.
You're going to be. You said it requires knowledge of that. Are you going to be teaching the palm, or people are going to need to come in knowing what the longitudinal palm is?
It'll help if you know the longitudinal palm, but I will be going over it. But I know it's quite a strange palm to kind of get comfortable with. So
sure, so they can start brushing up on that now, and then get the most out of your lecture.
Yeah, if you don't know what it is, it looks like that.
There we go. See, sneaky peek. What are you looking forward to about the event?
Just sharing the ideas. I think no one's seen these before, so I hope people like it. I've never taught it to anyone before ever, so this will be the first time that it's being
exclusive.
That's exciting. Yes.
Has performing in Vegas been the dream? And if so, what's next for Shin? What are you working on?
Well, I've been working. It's been tough. It's especially during the virus. It's been tough to kind of wrap your head around everything. Even trying to be creative is kind of tough at this time too. However, that is the ultimate goal. We're changing the show. We want to change the show. And we want to make it better. Because before I was actually performing in someone else's theater. It was Terry Fader's theater. So we actually couldn't really do anything creatively. We were very, very much restricted. It was almost like we were doing a tour show.
Right, and his lighting rig and
exactly all his lighting, everything, even his screen. But now Terry is his contract's over with the Mirage, and so now I'm able to make changes, and so I'm very excited too.
How exciting!
Yeah.
We always end the podcast with 4 quick fire questions. Shim, are you ready?
Yes.
Favorite movie? Yeah, and you're
it used to be Inception, but I think maybe Parasite now.
Oh, okay. Favorite pizza topping?
Ham.
Favorite person or people who make music?
Hans Zimmer.
And finally, who would you rather fight? 100 tiny Joshua Jays or 1 massive Andy Gladwin?
I think 100 Joshua Jays.
Shin Lim, thank you so much for giving us your time
Yeah,
this afternoon. I really appreciate it. And
absolutely.
I'm
No
sure
problem.
everybody listening will be looking forward to joining you live at Experts at the Card Table. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much.